I wanted to share the Scottish Highland stew with dumplings. It's hearty, filling, and one of those meals that's even better the next day. And yeah, beef is expensive right now, but this is one of the best ways to make it work. You use a relatively small amount and turn it into something that feeds the whole family and stretches into a couple of meals. This is a very traditional dish: beef, root vegetables, dumplings, and it's simple, almost too simple sometimes if you look at some of the older recipes like I did, but I found a handful of small changes that make a big difference. Nothing complicated, just a few ingredients you might not expect, and add a little contrast and make the whole thing come together. I hate to use the word secret ingredients, but there are just some things I found in my pantry to help bring this flavor. So we're gonna keep this very traditional with a few adjustments and making a hearty, satisfying beef stew. Let me show you how. I'm gonna start with prepping the vegetables that go into the stew so we have them ready. I'm chopping 1 medium onion and about 3 carrots. To me, it doesn't matter how you cut them. If you want them chopped, cubed, or half moons, have at it. Just don't make the pieces too small. And here's the main reason I wanted to share this recipe. I'm using 2 big rutabagas, or about 550 grams. Honestly, when do you get to use rutabagas? Fun to say and fun to eat. I peeled these using my trusted peeler and quartered these into large chunks. Anyway, if you can find rutabaga, it's really worth trying here. They are sweet and earthy, and it holds up really well in a long cook. If not, you can use other root vegetables like turnips, or go with potatoes for something more familiar. Stews are pretty forgiving if you want to bulk it up with a little more and give it that sort of classic beef stew feel. Now for the meat. Before starting, I like to make sure that my knife is sharp, so I'm just honing the knife here. This is technically not a sharpener, but it realigns and straightens the blade, making cutting a little easier. I'm using about 2 pounds or 900 grams of chuck and cutting them into cubes. Big or medium size, that's up to you. I have small children and they didn't like the really big pieces. By the way, if you can, buy chuck roast and cut it yourself. It's usually cheaper than pre-cut stew meat, and you get better pieces because stew meat is usually a mix of different cuts and sometimes too fatty. If you see pieces with too much fat, you can just trim it, but don't get rid of all the fat because fat is flavor. Put that in a bowl. Toss that with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour and a good pinch of salt and some black pepper if you want. In case you were wondering, all that prep was maybe 10 minutes. I'm gonna go wash my hands now. Heat up a Dutch oven or large pot with about 3 tablespoons of oil on medium heat. And I'm adding the beef in batches and letting it brown for about 4 to 5 minutes each batch. If you crowd this, it will take forever to brown. And the goal is to just get them browning on each side, and that is where most of the flavor comes from. It's the Maillard reaction in action. I'm using tongs, but a heavy wooden spoon does the job as well. Once that's done, I'm pulling the beef out and setting it aside. Into the same pot, I'm adding a little more oil for the veggies and then dumping in the onions, carrots, and rutabagas and mixing it up a bit. Now I'm adding 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. This is the not so secret ingredient number 1. We're adding umami. And now I'm salting it with a big pinch or 2 because there's a lot of vegetables. Stir it around and let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes. Give it an occasional stir. Now I'm adding the beef back in and adding 2 cups of beef stock or water. You can use any stock, but beef stock makes the most sense here. You don't want it over the entire thing because we're covering it and we'll let the steam cook it as well. And for another flavor boost, which is a not so secret ingredient, I'm adding a few drops of fish sauce. It's really strong stuff, so be careful. Typically it's Worcestershire sauce, but I don't have it, and I didn't really want to mispronounce Worcestershire sauce in the video. Anyway, it's more umami flavor, so use Worcestershire sauce or fish sauce, or even a splash of soy sauce, anything with that umami to enhance the stew. I'll bring that to a simmer, cover it, and let that cook on low for about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes until the root veggies are fork tender. An hour later, let's take the cover off. I'm adding my final not so secret flavor enhancer for the stew, which is about a half a tablespoon of apricot jam, and giving it a good mix around. And I know that sounds a little strange, but it shouldn't make it sweet. Some of the recipes that I read added red currant jam, which I couldn't find, and I found jam really adds something to the whole stew. Just avoid anything with seeds or something that isn't too overpowering. Apricot fit the bill. Some people might use a little grape jelly. It softens and rounds out the dish, and it doesn't add too much sweetness. Start with a little bit and then add a little more if you feel that it needs it. I'm gonna let that cook uncovered while I make the dumplings. Now, for the dumplings, in a bowl, I'm adding 1 cup or 150 grams of flour, 1/4 cup or 60 grams of cold grated butter. I put mine in the freezer so I can grate it. Then I'm adding a big pinch of salt and then a half a teaspoon of baking powder. And I've used 1 to 2 teaspoons of chopped rosemary from my garden. The baking powder will make these lighter than your usual dumplings, which is what I prefer. Mix that together, then add about 5 to 6 tablespoons of water until it forms a soft dough. If it feels a little dry, dab your fingers into the water and use that and roll it out and shape it into a disc. Then cut or divide it into 6 dumplings. Shape them into balls or flatten them a little bit into biscuits and place them right on top of the stew. Cover it again and let it simmer gently for the 30 to 40 minutes. Try not to open it up too much. You need that steam to do the work so that the dumplings lift up. After that, the dumplings should be puffed up and light, and the stew will have thickened slightly underneath. Give it a taste and add salt if you need it, and that's it. A very simple traditional stew. You have to decide if you want to use a fork or a spoon. And yeah, enjoy it with dinner today or again the next day. Hope you give it a try, and I'll see you with the next dish from around the world.
Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce.
Yes!